Hello, my name is Dr. Keith Giaquinto and welcome to episode 1 of my educational series called Body Talks. And in today's episode, we're going to be exploring the mindset component when it comes to our health. So in this video, what we're going to be discussing is we're going to be talking about some healthcare stats in this country. We're going to be defining what is health, what is disease. And then lastly, we're going to explore different mindsets when it comes to our health. But first, I want to talk to you about our healthcare system in this country, the medical community. The medical community is not a healthcare system. It really needs to be renamed because where medicine thrives is in two major areas. The first area is in that crisis intervention system. So if you get into a crisis situation or a traumatic experience, where let's say you get into a car accident, you have a deep laceration that you need to be stitched up, or you have a bone that is broken that requires surgery, or an acute infection that requires medicine and antibiotics to deal with that infection, that is where medicine thrives. The second area where they thrive in is in that disease management component. So if your body breaks down far enough and degenerates to a point where you're having all of these symptoms and need medication to manage those symptoms, this is also where medicine thrives. It really has nothing to do with health, and it really needs to be renamed. So let's first talk about what the leading causes of death are in this country, according to the CDC. These are the top 10 leading causes of death. And I wanted to point out to you that 3 of these causes, number 3 accidents, number 8 influenza and pneumonia, and number 10 suicides, those 3 causes have nothing to do with chronic degenerative diseases. The other 7 leading causes of death are due to chronic degenerative diseases, which on the CDC website states that all of these conditions are preventable through diet and lifestyle. So I just want to kind of point that out to you, that we have a medical system that is designed for acute or crisis situations that we were really good at and are the best at in the world and thrive in. But when it comes to the leading causes of death, when 90% of our resources and our expenditures is going towards treating chronic degenerative diseases, there just has to be another way in order to deal with this. So let's talk about numbers. In 2018, according to the government, we spent $3.6 trillion on healthcare. This is more than double the next developed nation that is close to us. Just over $11,000 per person that we're spending on healthcare. It's 17.7% GDP, and it increased 4.4% from the year before. So the government's projecting health spending through 2027. What do those numbers look like? Well, they're saying that it's going to increase from 4.4 to 5.5% every year to 2027. We're going to approach $6 trillion on healthcare, which is going to bring it up over $18,000 per person and close to 20% GDP that we are spending on healthcare. And just to give you an idea, the inflation rate is around 1.6. So this level of growth is simply unsustainable. And if we are spending the most, more than double the next developed nation, then we would have the best healthcare in the world, right? That's what we're bragging about, that we have the best in the world. Well, how does it rank in consideration to other developed nations as far as performance and efficiency? So there was a report in 2017 that ranked the US last among 11 other developed nations. We have the lowest life expectancy, where other developed nations have an average lifespan of 80.7 to 83.9. The US is 78.8 years. The life expectancy in the US has declined for the 3rd year in a row, so we're dying sooner. And 3 of the big reasons as why we're dying is, the number 1 reason is because of the opioid epidemic, where people are dying from addiction and overdose. Number 2 is due to increase in liver disease. And number 3, suicide rates are going up. We have one of the highest infant mortality rates in the world, where other developed nations have an average of 3.6 deaths per 1,000 births. The US is at 5.8. So if we're spending the most on healthcare and think that we have the greatest healthcare system in the world, then why are we performing so low? And a big part of this, I believe, has to deal with the mindset. So that's what we're going to dive into. But first, let's define what health is. In 1948, the World Health Organization defined health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmary. Which I really like this definition because they take much more of a holistic approach in defining health. Because we are not just our physical body. There is a mental and emotional component to us. There is a nutritional component to us. There is a spiritual and an energetic component to us. So when someone loses their health in more of a complex condition or a chronic issue, you need to take more of a holistic approach when it comes to health. So then the definition of disease, the medical definition of disease is a condition of the body or one of its parts that impairs normal function and manifests by giving you signs and symptoms. So in other words, when an organ system is not working properly or you have a certain tissue that is damaged or a joint, it can just be that particular part of the body, or it can affect the body as a whole and become more systemic. And the thing is with medicine is designed for that acute or crisis situation. So they actually compartmentalize health. So if you have an issue with your heart, you're going to go see a cardiologist. If you have an issue with your sinuses, you're going to go see an ENT. And this is where they thrive, is in that acute or crisis situation. But when it comes to chronic degenerative diseases, you have to take much more of a holistic approach in trying to heal them or prevent them from even occurring in the first place. The developer of chiropractic, B.J. Palmer, kind of states it this way, is that medicine is the study of disease and what causes man to die, which is very true, because that was the whole point of how the medical establishment started, was treating infectious disease and acute and crisis situations. Chiropractic, on the other hand, is the study of health and what causes man to live. Because the whole premise and philosophy behind chiropractic is that the brain controls every single function in your body. And it communicates to the body through the spine and the nervous system. So your spine has a very intimate connection to your brain and how your nervous system is functioning. And this is why we focus a lot on chiropractic adjustments, posture, but more importantly, diet and lifestyle, and take much more of a holistic approach when it comes to our health. Because there's a big difference between being healthy or not being sick. So you can do the bare minimum when it comes to your health and not have any symptoms, but that doesn't really mean that you're fully healthy and living up to your fullest potential. There's a big difference and a big gap between the both of them. So I want to talk to you about that first mindset, and I like to call this defensive health. So when people have this mindset, they have one or several thought patterns or belief systems which then dictates the way they behave regarding their health. And the first thing is that these type of people have very little body awareness. Most people walk around all day and they don't even know that there's a body attached below their neck, because they're so overwhelmed and with their busy schedule and stressed out from work and life in general that they can't hear their body when their body is speaking to them. The second one is that people believe that they are a victim of their genes. And yes, we all have genetic strengths and we all have genetic weaknesses. But just because you have a genetic predisposition for something does not mean that that gene ever has to be expressed. Because what science is showing is that genes can be turned on and off just like a light switch. And what turns genes on and off is diet and lifestyle. The next one is people believe that there's no intelligence in the body. So if there's no intelligence in the body, then you have to manipulate your health from the outside in with drugs and medication. And if this is true, then the person that's taking the most medications would be the healthiest. But that is just simply not true. Taking medication and thinking that you're healthy is like taking out a loan from the bank and thinking that you are rich. The next one is that if you believe that you are a victim of your genes and there's no intelligence in the body, well then you have simply no control over the outcome of your health. It's already predetermined. So it doesn't matter what you do, so there's no accountability with this particular belief system. The next one is that, oh, I don't have any symptoms or I don't get sick, therefore I am healthy. But as we learned in the World Health Organization, it is not the absence of disease or infirmity. Health has nothing to do with how you feel. Health has everything to do with how your body is functioning. Let me give you a couple examples. Let's say you go into your doctor for your annual and first they take your blood pressure. Oh, your blood pressure is starting to creep up. It's on the high end of normal, or it's just on the other side of normal. They run your blood work. Oh, your liver enzymes are elevated. Oh, your blood glucose is elevated. You are now pre-diabetic or you have diabetes. You don't feel those things, but you still have these processes going on in the body. It's that point in your life where you need to go and you get a colonoscopy. So they go and get a colonoscopy and they remove 3 polyps. Well, they send those polyps to the lab and they come back and they're carcinogenic. So you have these polyps that are developing in your colon that are giving you cancer, but you don't necessarily feel that. You get your results back from your bone density scan, and you are osteopenic, and you're on your way to having osteoporosis. So these are just a few examples of diseases that you may not necessarily feel, but are still happening in the body anyway. And then people wait for a crisis to happen before they take action. They're more reactive in nature. So now I'm not saying that defensive health is right or wrong. It's just one way of looking at health and is what I see a lot in the patients that come in to see me, which is why I'm doing this series Body Talks to help educate you on how to take care of yourself. So if this is defensive health, then the other mindset is offensive health. And what does offensive health look like? Well, these type of people have a very high self-awareness. They're extremely aware of their body. They understand that health needs to be supported on a daily basis. They believe that there is an innate intelligence inside the body and that health comes from the inside out. It is always an inside-out job. They believe that they are in control of their health. They manage their stress well, and they strengthen their body. And how do they strengthen their body? By creating healthy habits. Stress management, journaling, meditating, eating a clean diet, exercising, yoga, and getting consistent chiropractic care. When people are more proactive in nature, I like to call this offensive health, which then gives them a better fighting chance and more proactive in reducing their risk for these chronic degenerative diseases. So let me say the same thing, only different. So I created this diagram to kind of explain and give you a visual of what I'm talking about with defense versus offensive health. So when the body is functioning close to 100%, and as it starts to decrease in function due to stress and life in general, it's going to hit a certain threshold here. And when the function goes below this threshold, this is where your body is going to start to scream at you and talk to you and give you symptoms. So when people become symptomatic, what's the first thing that people do? They get on the phone, they call their chiropractor, and they go in and get an adjustment that day. Or do people do something different? Most people do something different. They go and grab an over-the-counter medication that deals with the symptoms. So it chemically changes the body to decrease the symptoms or get rid of the symptoms, so then their body moves above this threshold and they become asymptomatic. So when you're playing defensive health, people are yo-yoing across this threshold their whole life. They never get back up to close to improving the function of their body. So when you're yo-yoing across this threshold and playing defensive health, it is much easier for the body to stay in a weakened state, and this is where those chronic degenerative diseases come from. Or you can play this whole other different game called offensive health, where we can strengthen the body, support normal function, and get your body back up to as close to 100% as possible so we can get you back to peak performance. And how do we do that? Through creating healthier habits. So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about here. I'll give you two examples. Number one, we're talking about seasonal allergies. So let's say in the spring and fall, if you're someone that suffers with seasonal allergies, in the spring you may have a couple of weeks, a month, 6 weeks, or 2 months that you may be plagued with allergies when things start to bloom, and also in the fall. So if you're playing defense with those seasonal allergies, the only thing you're doing is either taking an over-the-counter medication or a decongestion, or you're doing allergy shots to help with the allergies. That's basically all you're doing. Or you can get on the offensive side and strengthen the body, because seasonal allergies, there can be a structural component to that in a way of having poor posture, which we'll dive into later, or you can have subluxations up here at the base of your skull that then is going to affect the sinuses, or there can be a nutritional component to it of an underlying digestion issue, having leaky gut and chronic inflammation, and then which is causing lymphatic congestion. And that is also what is causing seasonal allergies. So you can strengthen the body by getting adjusted, correcting your posture, strengthening your gut, cleaning up your lymphatic system, so that you can prevent these seasonal allergies from ever occurring. That is a possibility, and I do that all the time in my practice. Let me give you another example. Skin issues. Let's say eczema, psoriasis, very dry, scaly skin and patches of inflammation that are occurring on the skin. Taking a defensive approach to that is, again, going to your medical doctor, getting steroid cream, and just putting it on topically to deal with those patches, which in mild cases can actually work. But if you've got more of a moderate or a severe case of psoriasis or eczema, there is an underlying issue that's going on. And all skin issues, there's an underlying gut issue that has to be resolved in order to correct that. So playing defense with that, you're just taking the topical medication. Playing offense, you're actually correcting the underlying issue, which is an underlying gut problem. So there's just two examples. So what is my vision of health for everybody? Well, first of all, it starts with personal responsibility. Health is an inside job, and you have to take 100% ownership of that. Because if you're depending on an outside source or somebody else to be responsible for your health, it's just not going to work that way. So you have to take 100% responsibility for your health. You have to listen to your body and then act when it is starting to speak to you. And this is one of the biggest difference between defense and offensive health. Most people, when they come in to see me, have some sort of that defensive mindset. And I teach them, and one of the biggest things that I try to tell them is that your body is highly intelligent, and it speaks to you all the time. The question is, are you listening to it when it is whispering to you, or are you dealing with it when it yells at you? Because when you're dealing with your body when it yells at you, that's more defensive. But really learning to listen to it and support your body when it's whispering, that is offensive health. Mastering your stress management. This is key when it comes to your health. Most people, when they come in that have health issues, their stress is through the roof and they do nothing to manage it. And they wonder why they have health issues. So learning how to master your stress and manage it on a daily or weekly basis is really key. Creating healthy habits. You need to strengthen your body. And then lastly, getting regular, consistent chiropractic care. People that are healthy and have more of a wellness or an offensive health mindset, they get regular, consistent chiropractic care because they understand the value in it, and chiropractic care helps them function at a higher level. So to review, when we're talking about defensive health, we're talking about not being self-aware, not hearing your body when it is speaking to you. Managing your stress poorly, your body becomes weakened. You wait for a crisis to occur, and then you take action, which is usually medication. And then you have to manage the environment, which now your weakened body needs to survive in. Now again, I'm not saying this is right or wrong. This is just one approach to health, is being more reactive in nature. So if you want to go from defensive health to offensive health, this is what this series is about. Body Talks. So when it comes to offensive health, to review, people have very high self-awareness of their body. They master their stress very well. They take action by creating healthy habits. They strengthen their body on a daily basis. In this way, the environment does not affect you as much with a strengthened body. And then when this happens and you're more proactive, you can live up to your full potential. And that's really what this is about. I like to think of health as a relationship between you and your body. And just like any relationship, you have to put effort and energy into that relationship if you want that to work. Because if you don't put energy and effort into a relationship, you can't expect that relationship to work or for your health to hang around. Because people simply do what is important to them. And where does health lie on your priority list? If it is high on your list, then you're going to have much more of an offensive approach when it comes to your health. If it's lower on your list, you're going to have more of a defensive approach. Again, not saying that one's better than the other, they are just different. But if you want to be healthy and greatly reduce your risk for these chronic degenerative diseases so you don't become a statistic that we talked about in the beginning, then you have to go from playing defense to more of an offensive style. And that's what this series is going to be about, is teaching you these little steps along the way. Next episode, I'm going to be talking about homeostasis. What is it? What causes it to go out of balance? So these first few episodes, I need to set the foundation down and teach you guys, and so that you guys can understand the bigger concepts of how the body works based on science and physiology. So then later we can dive into the individual parts that make the whole work. So the final question is that as I was going through this information here today, what limiting thought pattern or belief system have you noticed about you when it comes to your health? And what is the one thing that you're willing to work on or to change when it comes to your health? So please comment down below and share with me. I'd love to hear that feedback. So thank you for watching. This was episode 1. If you really enjoyed this content, please make sure you hit the thumbs up or the like button. Make sure you subscribe to my channel to get future notifications of episodes coming out, new episodes. But perhaps more importantly, is help me pay it forward and get others engaged in this conversation. So if you're sitting here watching this, thinking about somebody else that really needs to hear this information, please share it with them and help me pay it forward. I greatly appreciate that. Because in the end, it is your body, it is your health, it is your choice. Own it. I'm Dr. Keith. Until the next episode, see you later.